Welcome to Biology Career Insights, the podcast where we explore the diverse journeys of professionals shaping the life sciences. Today, we are heading way north, to Tromsø, Norway, where innovation meets icy waters. Our guest is Kåre Johan Teigen, co-founder and chief commercial officer at Wai Genetics. Kåre brings truly interdisciplinary background from aquaculture and animation to marketing and microbiology. With experience in salmon farming at companies like SalMar and Norway Royal Salmon, creative work as an independent artist, and leadership in student entrepreneurship, his career is a fusion of biology, communication, and innovation. He also serves as a board member at Europa Bevægelsen, promoting European collaboration and trade. I'm excited to dive into his journey from fish farms and art studios to biotech entrepreneurship in the Arctic. Kåre, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Manish. I really think podcast is a really great medium to get stories across.
Absolutely. And you have a fantastic story. So I just thought of reaching out to you, and I'm so thankful that you made some time for us.
Oh, great. Yeah, because I run a biotech startup. And our biggest challenge in the biotech startup is to get awareness about our technology. We want to find users. We want users to adapt our technology. And by talking with you in this podcast, I think I'm able to make a parasocial relationship with my viewers. I'm telling about what we're doing, what difference does it do, and also making a little bit story so people have some mental attachment to the product, and later it will be easier for me to introduce the product.
Absolutely, Kåre. And of course, we will dive into your products and about you founding the Wai Genetics. But first, we are very interested in knowing about your journey so far. So just tell us about where you were born and so your journey so far.
So I was actually born on an island called Tromsø. My dad is a priest, actually, and he just finished his education, and he was starting as a priest here up in Tromsø. Wow. My mother was sent to the hospital. I was born in 1988 here in Tromsø. But my parents wanted to travel to a remote village. So they thought, oh, so romantic. We need to live in a place remote away from people. So they brought all my family up to a small village with just 100 people.
Wow.
And that's where I was raised. So wow. And the village is not that it's a small village. It's like 2 hours to the next village. So you totally...
No, fantastic. That's fantastic. So which school did you went, and how did you kind of choose to study, say, biology? Or I think you studied aquaculture, right?
So actually, my education, I had a really, I was actually passionate about art, drawing art, 3D modeling. So I started that journey. But I figured out that it's so high competition to get a paying job in art that you need a certain level of skills. And before you reach that level of skill, you need to do a lot of freelance job, a lot of free project, and that's too much stress. So during summer, I got an invitation to work as an aqua farmer back in my village. It's like when you're in a remote place, you need to take the people you have. It's like, well, you wished someone more skilled than me, but here I am. So
available.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was when? That was during your college, or?
So it was. So I already had started a bachelor degree in 3D animation.
In 3D animation, wow.
Yes. But when I got this job offer, I'm just, no. I leave 3D animation behind. 3D animation is probably a really good job, but the competition to get to the place or the skills you need to before you can get a salary was too tight at that time. So when I got a good paying job, it's like, no, I do that. But I figured out, like, biology is an art in itself. It's not that I sacrificed being creative. It was just that so when I start working, I discovered that there is like so many interesting layers in biology. Like when we're having fish inside nets in the ocean, and there's so much change going on in the ocean. And also the production chain to make the salmon is super complex. It's so many different people who need to work together, who need to master a specialized field to make the entire process to just make a salmon.
And tell us more about the process. It's also fascinating for me to know how.
So the process is like we are trying to mimic what nature is doing when it comes to the salmon.
Wow.
The salmon is a fish that lives in fresh water when they are juvenile, and then they go out in the ocean to find more food when they get bigger. So they change from being a freshwater fish to a saltwater fish. And everything starts with the fish that have been eating a lot of food out in the Atlantic Ocean go back to the river and start mating. It's actually another funny story because there is some salmon who don't go out in the ocean. Instead of becoming big, they become like a tiny salmon, and all their body size is just sexual organs.
Wow, I never knew about this.
Yeah. So
do people also eat this salmon, like the one you're mentioning?
The sneaky bastards.
What do you call them? Do you call them sneaky bastards, really?
Yes, that's actually the term for this salmon. It's sneaky bastards.
Okay, fantastic. Yes.
So the sneaky bastards, if I can use this word,
of course you can. I mean, it's
in biology.
Yes, absolutely.
So the sneaky bastard have like a strategy where the female don't want the sneaky bastard. They want the big salmon. They are attracting. Oh yeah, this guy is so big. His skin is so hard, and his mouth is like a claw. I want this guy. So
alpha.
Yeah. Well, we can call it alpha or whatever. But when the female find the fish they like, they swim up and start releasing their eggs. And then the sneaky bastards, while the big fish is trying to inseminate the eggs, the sneaky bastard is like running all it can to like the eggs and become part of the.
Wow! So that's why the term sneaky. So it sneaks. Although the eggs were released for the big ones.
Yes,
it's the sneaky bastards who actually come and inseminate along with the bigger ones. Wow.
Exactly. This is not only with salmon. I worked actually as a cod breeder while I was a student. And it was like the females can choose which male they want. Wow. So they are on the bottom and the male need to swim over the female and courtesize the female. Like I'm not sure what the salmon do, but when it comes to the cod, they are burping. Burp, burp.
Wow, so like real sound. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. There were some scientists trying to record this burping because the female get attracted to, it's like bird songs, only in burping ways.
No, this is so fascinating. So how long did you work there before starting your company?
So I was there for 5 years in that small village, but then I could have continued. That would be the smart economic choice. Just continue living through frugal investing. If I wanted to be rich, that would be my path. Just continue working and reinvesting. It's like sometimes money is not the thing that motivates you. It's like getting like the social interaction you can get in a university environment. I had just went away from a university environment, but I wanted to go back. So I applied again, but this time I didn't want to do 3D animation. This time I wanted to learn about how doing business. Because when I was working out in the sea, I saw so many potential to commercialize all the different species going on in the ocean. Because we are not we don't utilize what's going on in the ocean. There's so many researchers that we are ignoring, not only for food, but cosmetics, medicine, like all those tiny creatures. Some of them have very unique properties that you can take a chemical part of this organism and you can discover a new medicine.
So, wow. So you worked, first you were like studying 3D animation, then you went to gain some experience in this aquaculture of salmons, basically. And then you decided that, you want to move back to the university and you did your bachelor's, say, in business administration.
Exactly. Not that economy is my strength. It's just that I knew if I want to start a business, I just need to know the basic. Because there's so many, we call it hygienic failures. Like when you're running a business, your product can be really good, but you mess up because you ignore some hygienic measures.
Criteria measures.
No, I'm talking about in economic terms. When you're running your company, if you are doing your budgeting wrong, it's not because your product is bad. It's just because the way you run your product is wrong. That's like within business, we call it hygienic measures. So I just wanted to avoid the big mistakes.
Got it.
Trust me, it is. Oh, thank you. I just got some tea.
Wow. I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Wow. Very nice.
So again, I'm actually really glad I took that background. Because there's so many traps you can fall into when you're doing a startup.
Absolutely. And so this is really fascinating. So you were doing your business studies. When did Wai Genetics happen? So tell us more about, first of all, about your company, and then
I
tell
need to
me
introduce
about...
my co-founder first.
Yes.
To get a coherent understanding, because my co-founder is 10 years older than me. And he's been like fox inside the university system for many, many years.
Wow.
But when he started to study, he got a scholarship in Hawaii, like an exchange student. So it was supposed to be only 1 year. But he's also same as me, from a small village. And when you have like a small village boy going to Hawaii, the neighbor was so fascinated that he put Petter's name, that's my co-founder, in his will. He was a local fisherman, very frugal, just working, investing. So you couldn't see that guy was rich, but he had a fortune lying around.
Wow. And he lived a very normal lifestyle. Like you couldn't make out that he's very rich. Wow.
It's actually very typical in Northern Norway culture that some really rich people, you cannot detect them because
they're quite humble.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it might be that they might be humble. But suddenly my friend Petter had a fortune and he really loved staying in Hawaii. So he, with the inherited money, he made himself a research organization which paid himself a salary. So he could stay at Hawaii as a guest researcher. That means he's not paid from the Hawaiian university. He's just his own man.
So he's like paying himself through the foundation or the... what's fascinating, how did he get in touch with this rich guy who gave him the money?
Just
how was
neighbor.
It?
Just neighbor.
From the same village.
Yeah. So the neighbor had like believed that, I have a wish that this guy is going to do something big.
Wow.
Not sure. Yeah. So he had just this hunch that this kid is going to do something big, and I will give him my inheritance to do that.
To this guy. And he did not have his own kids or something like that? Was it like that?
No, he hadn't. Okay. He didn't have any kids.
Got it. And then when Petter got this money, he could buy Ferrari. He could do so many things. So why start a company and take all that, So he must be a passionate guy.
Yes. So actually, his life depended on understanding plant biology.
Wow.
So this is speculation, but up north, we have a very strange, not strange, that's wrong, but we have indigenous people, the Sami people, and being indigenous, you have evolved to handle a different lifestyle, like the way you eat and everything. But modern life is not necessarily suited for
this kind of lifestyle.
Yes. So he suffered from a lot of allergies. And he needed so he actually used plants as a way to reduce his allergic effects.
So he was trained biologist, and then he specialized himself in plant biology.
Yes, because he discovered that he could heal his allergy effect from some plants.
So his own pain, basically, he converted it into like an inspiration to do a plant research. That's a very touching story.
It was like life or death. It was life or death, actually, because he's super allergic. If you have cumin in the room, he will suffer.
Wow.
And another effect, if someone is smoking marijuana, he cannot be close by.
Me too, honestly. Wow. So this is okay. This is a very, very, very unique story, I must say. And then when he was in Hawaii, because I understand he got some money, he started his own basically research lab and research career. So how did Wai Genetics come into being?
So basically, he discovered guava had a lot of medical property for him. And because he understood, wow, guava is my lifesaver. This is the medicine that can make me have a normal day-to-day. He used his knowledge as a DNA reading. First, he worked with tuberculosis and other kind of medicine. But then he finally got a project to start reading the genetic heritage of the guava on Hawaii. Because the guava on Hawaii actually belonged to Brazil. Like sailors was just planting a lot of plants when they went to different islands for coming back to have something to eat. No, the guava is growing everywhere in Hawaii and actually doing more damage than good. But back to why he made this technology. When he was trying to extract DNA on guava, it was so painstaking, so much work. And it was just a few of his sample who were readable. And later, spending all day to do DNA extraction, and then you're going for performing downstream analysis, and none of them are working, it become very annoying. So we actually spent years just trying to get a high quality DNA extraction on the guava. But instead of just continuing doing sample after sample and just hoping that one of them would be readable, he went to the core problem, which is the biochemistry. So if you're able to isolate DNA, no problem. Reading DNA is not hard.
But like high quality DNA extraction.
Yes. So the problem is that if you're working with a sample where there's a lot of chemistry like phenol, tannins, latex, complex proteins and sugars and so on, they are going to interfere with the integrity of the DNA.
Absolutely.
So imagine, you know how the Inca was transmitting information with ropes. There was binding some knots on the rope and they could send information. DNA is exactly the same. It's a commando language made on protein, like a long string of information. If this is breaking apart, you lose information.
Absolutely.
And these chemicals interact with the strange and tear it apart. So he made this reagent to protect the DNA and deflect the attack from the other chemistry.
Wow. So basically, it was during his research in Hawaii that he came up with a reagent that actually helps him isolate high quality DNA from the guava because of the biochemistry of the reagent, because it kind of blocks all the damaging. And does it work only for guava, or it works actually for other
so
plant
we have
extracts?
tried it on 80 different species.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Mostly plant species. So when we are doing a benchmark, the comparison success will be different from sample to sample. If you're going, we just tried on fungi and mold, and when it comes to fungi and mold, yes, our reagent were superior, but we don't have as much success on fungi as we have on plant. But that's also why we made a new additional reagent to also address fungi.
Fantastic. And out of this product, basically this reagent, he founded basically Wai Genetics.
Yes. So he thought like, when he was in Hawaii, he was trying to talk to people who can commercialize it, but they would like, yeah, we can commercialize. You can get 1% and we take the rest.
But the technology was developed by him, right? So
yes, exactly. So he was like, I don't think so. I don't think so. So he actually just went back to Norway. He ran out of money, so he needed to go back to Norway.
And he ran out of which money? Because he had a lot of money. He has all the inherited money.
If you don't work for 7 years, you run out of money.
That's true.
He was 7 years. He lived 7 years on this
money inherited,
and also developed the reagent. So
no, I totally understand. And then he came back to Norway and co-founded this company, basically.
Yes.
And so how did you? Yes.
How did we met?
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell us more. Yes.
Well, we both have a passion for board game, actually, especially strategy game. So at Tromsø University, there's like a board game club, and me and him went there all the time, and we were playing a board game. And after the board game, we were discussing biology, science, philosophy, and everything. So we had a lot of deep discussion about different topics. I'm very passionate about philosophy, science. Let's say opinionated.
I can feel that.
But I just enjoy it.
Absolutely, Kai. No, this is absolutely, I can feel the passion. So what's fascinating that you said that your co-founder is actually 8 years elder to you. So
10 years.
10 years elder to you. So meeting him in a board game room seems to be quite some coincidence, right? So this is...
Yeah, absolutely. I also had my strategy to start like producing algae. Instead of doing aquaculture with fish, I wanted to do it with algae.
Algae, because it's a superfood kind of, right?
It's a superfood, but I also realized that to commercialize algae, you need to develop the market. You also need to find more technology. And I to be honest, I don't have the skills to do that.
Awesome.
But when then I just gave up this project, not because algae is a bad project. It's just that I'm not capable to go into that industry with what I have today. Maybe in the future, but not today.
Yeah. So that time, when you met Petter, was it like also like you were trying to kind of start a company? Because it's clear that you studied business because you had the startup in mind, like you wanted to do business. That's why you studied. Because many people study business. Because many people study business just to kind of find that business job, right?
No, I wanted to start a company. My plan was to, as I said, when I was working in the ocean, there's so many interesting species, algae, like insects in the ocean, a lot of stuff. And I was thinking, wow, this is an untapped potential. Why are not people making a product out of it? But
Wow.
when I start studying, I understand because there's so many traps that you can go into when you're starting a company.
Absolutely.
And what I would say by doing this study, I realized that my previous idea was not bad, but I was not capable of doing it alone.
Yeah, I think that's why I think the universe connected you and Petter together in the board game.
Yeah.
I'm sure, he would have his own doubts. Was his idea very clear that he wants to start this reagent company, or you kind of had different rounds of discussion, and then kind of you said, okay, we should start Wai Genetics? Or tell us the story, basically.
So basically, when he thought what he was going to discover, and yes, it took him many years to develop it, but he was just a small student. What did this matter? But when he went back studying, he realized the same problem he was struggling on Hawaii, he also encountered here in Tromsø. Then he realized, wait, I actually have a solution for all this struggle, and it might also be a lot of potential.
Wow.
So he just brushed the dust off his old lab book, and he started to think, I can turn this into a startup. Wow. And he then in 2019, it was during Christmas, he invited me to the board game room. And then he told about his ideas. It was a bit difficult to understand what he was trying to say in the beginning. But
because you are not a biologist, right? So that's why I was like, how did he understand that this mission is so important, for example?
I would say the challenge was that when you're specialized in something, it's very, very hard to take what you know and tell it in a way that most people understood it.
And I think you are very good at that, because when you explain the DNA with this rope analogy, I loved it. But
okay,
yeah,
good.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So in 2019, we was planning to get this going, and we wanted to apply for some funding to get this along. So in 2020, we started to applying for grants because he had run out of money. I had some personal money, but I thought, not that I didn't want to deplete all my personal savings immediately. But Corona happened.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like, what can be better? Starting a biotech company the same year Corona is hitting. And all social interaction at the university was shut down.
Absolutely. I mean, it was globally shut down.
It was global. For me, I would say it was the world before Corona and the world before after Corona, because the world changed so much, and also my life changed so much. And we was not that good at writing grants, so we didn't get it.
All right. So the first grant that you wrote, it was rejected.
Yes.
It sounds very familiar to a lot of stories of startup. Yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah, we just lacked the capacity to explain what we were doing. And again, our biggest problem from day one was a lack of communication, was a lack to describe what we were doing, get it out there. We were wasting time by applying for this grant. If we would spend time just sitting together, me and him, and trying to make a mind map in our head, how are we going to get this technology out to make people understand what we were doing? We don't need to apply for grants. We can just start selling what we have. So in a way, we had made fences in our own head. We put limitations. We need to ask for permission to make this going. We need to get a grant. We need someone else tells us it's okay for us to do a startup. Wow. And
No, but that tells me a very good lesson that, basically that if you think that you are convinced with your product, you don't need to kind of really wait for the grants to happen. You can go all in and then basically start selling your product. But then, of course, you need some advice from people in the field, right?
Yes.
Some expert advice, right? So,
You absolutely need to meet people who can give you really good advice. And I think also that's the maturation part of being a startup. Have you seen the movie Nothing New from the West Front?
no, I haven't.
It's
But tell us.
I really you should watch it. It's a movie about the First World War.
Mhm.
In the beginning, you're having this 17 years old boys is like, oh, it's war, I'm going to be a hero, let's go to the war. They're like celebrating because no, they have chance to be the hero. And then the first time they get into the battle, the entire group, like 80% of the group of friends are just killed like during a shelling. I'm really happy doing startup is not that bad. But
No,
it's
no,
similar
no. I
with
think
the
no.
startup.
This is I can totally. I remember an incident where my brother and my mom were trapped in a flood situation in back home in India, in the northern
Mm-hmm.
part of India. And my brother was telling in the beginning, he was like, "Hey, why is the flood in that town? Maybe I can also enjoy the flood."
Mm-hmm.
But when the
Mm-hmm.
flood hit and all the communications broke down, man,
Yeah.
he was panicking. And I think it's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
similar situation what you said. And I understand that startup can be tough, but fortunately, it is not tough as the World War, right? So,
Yeah. 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 It's much. We can call it first world problem.
first world problem. Yeah,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So trying to survive a startup is the best prime example of first world problem. But same as war, if you're able to survive the first battle, your chance of surviving the next battle, I think it go up by 80%. And
Wow.
I don't have the number, but
Mm.
like similar as when you start a startup and when you're a soldiers, like there's so many stupid things that kills you.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
ignorance
And lack of
and
experience, basically, right?
lack
Like
of
you have never,
experience.
yes.
So if you can find advisors who have been into the game a little bit longer, that's really valuable. The
Mhm.
problem is that not all advisors are equal.
Absolutely.
Because like when you're starting, you are not able to understand if the advisor are giving good advice or bad advice. It's more later when you realize this person is just a poser. He just pretending to know stuff. And later on, when
Absolutely.
you've been to the game, you're starting to realize this is a person who actually giving good advice. Because some of the advice you can get can really kill your startup.
Absolutely. No, I remember, so I was having a conversation with one of the founders. He actually bootstrapped his own company, and he was mentioning that,
Mm-hmm.
the first mentor that he reached out to basically said him that your startup is never going to succeed. And he was like totally blown away because, he was basically an investor. The mentor was actually an investor in a lot of biotech companies.
Mm-hmm.
And when such a person with such a reputation gives you like kind of this kind of advice that your startup will never succeed, you are all heartbroken. But the good thing about founders are that they are so resilient, so he came back and now his company is actually doing good. It is like global company with more than 200 people, so quite
Mm-hmm.
resonating. And this brings another point, Kare, to my head that even if you get mentors, it's not easy to get the right advice because you simply don't know what is the right advice. So tell us, like, how did you finally identify the right mentors or the right advice? And is there any message that you would give to, fellow co-founders or fellow new people who are starting their own business, basically? What would be your advice there?
So I would say like you need to. I think it's. I really I think like when people are posing to pretend that they know more than they do, you can actually cause more harm. So
Absolutely.
so for me, this is just my personal taste. I prefer to listen to people who who are try to be honest. You have blind spot. That's always going to happen. But they are like people who are self-critical, who try to be honest, and also you can see that they had a story to go through themselves. Have you seen the South Park episode about the lemmiwinks going through the dangerous tunnel?
No, I haven't. I must
No,
confess.
okay. So,
Yeah.
so I will not tell the story. It's a very bad imaginary. You can when South Park doing something, but basically there is a lemmiwink, like a small hamster who was captured in a tunnel, and he needs to get out. And while he's moving through the tunnel, he meet other animals who died in his way.
In this,
yeah,
inside the tunnel.
Yes. And while they become his guidance. It's like Star Wars when you have Obi-Wan Kenobi start guiding Luke Skywalker as a spirit. And the same way, I feel it's a little bit within the startup world. It's not that people necessarily are going to die. The company dies sometimes, but some of the people have so valuable information. And when they give like advice from the heart, that can really save a startup. Wow. Sometimes people who fail didn't learn anything, but a lot of time those who can advise you to the best have people who have been into the fire themselves.
Wow. So, I mean, this is a great advice that, always learn from the mistakes of others, so to say.
Yes.
And so it is also like, as you said, maybe when you are in the tunnel yourself, it's also important to listen. And this is, so because, when you are so passionate about things, you don't want to listen to others. You are just like, and I've seen such co-founders also, and sometimes they can be successful. But listening is such a great skill, right? Because many people I have seen, because you can be so passionate about your product that even if it's not the real product market fit, you might be just misjudging your passion. So how do you kind of, like, what would be your advice to any entrepreneur who's trying to find a product market fit? How can he listen to good advice? Because there is as you said, there is some blind spots there.
Oof, it's really hard to say. I think this is a question I would need to know the startup is so tight upon me. So it's really hard to give myself the overview to figure out what is a really how
but tell
to
us
listen.
Or tell me what you practice basically from your journey,
So
because you said that you reached out to some advisors, maybe they did
basically so what I say, it's like you start to meet other founders and you made a personal relationship with other founders, people who are going through their journey themselves, who are struggling with this because you need it's not only the product market fit you need to succeed, you also need to battle your own mental battle, because we have run the startup for 5 years.
Yeah, it's hard.
Trust me, you have been indulged many times in that journey. And
absolutely.
It has been like an emotional roller coaster. And when you find other founders who have been able to stay into it, to survive the emotional roller coaster, I think that has been some of the most valuable thing.
So it's more inspirational, right? It's more inspirational.
Yes, inspirational, but also how to say care.
So
a lot of time you can get people who are really good at practical advice, but
emotionally, emotionally.
Yeah, sometimes you actually need emotional support from someone who's going through the journey themselves.
Wow. No, I totally understand. And this is not just for a startup, it's like for any bigger challenge, so because when you connect to somebody, and they have shared, say, similar pains, then you say, oh, if he can get along, maybe I will be successful, something like that.
So I would say, like, a really important part of the mentor journey, you need to have the practical good thing advice, but there is also another part of the mental journey, and that's emotional support. Finding other founders who are honest about their struggle and can support you on the way.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah. So I would say at this moment, I only have lost money doing a startup, but I also gain a lot of good friends.
Fantastic. So finally, like, I just want to understand, like, because of course this is like a roller coaster and everything. So what did you decide in the beginning, whether to like rely on a grant, or you just thought of like bootstrapping on your own? How did you go about it?
We wanted to rely on a grant, but it became bootstrapping. When I was living in the small village, I lived with my parents. Because I remember when I was studying 3D animation, it was so annoying being broke all the time. I hate being broke.
I think everyone.
Yes.
Nobody likes being broke, yes.
Yeah. So when I lived there, I lived in their basement. And computer game and internet is very, very cheap entertainment. You listen to books, you're just going for a run in the forest. So I was actually saving and investing money. And with this money, when I was a student, I bought my own student dormitory.
Wow.
So I turned the place I was living into a student home and was renting it out while I was studying.
So you were like investment savvy very young, I must say, because, most people start that kind of investing. So you invested basically in dormitory, you rented it, and you had some passive income. And that was what age you were that time?
I was, so I think I was 27 when I bought my...
Pretty young, yes. Very nice.
So, but when we didn't get any funding, I gave my co-founder a place to stay at, and the garage became the laboratory.
You mean Petter, right?
Yes. So that means that when I'm renting out to him, I didn't get the rent from someone else. So there is an alternative.
You're losing your rent, of course. You're losing your rent.
Yeah. So I had other rent income, but it's starting to, like, the cost of keeping the startup afloat was starting to eat into your own personal finances.
And that is hard. That is hard because
it's absolutely hard, and it's also. It's also very, very annoying because you come from a good economic platform. You have started to make the money rolling, and then you see, like, for every year it's eating.
It's burning. You're burning finances. A lot of,
and there's absolutely no guarantee of success.
No, I totally hear you, and that is why entrepreneurship is hard, right? It's difficult. And so tell me more things, so because I see that, okay, of course, it's not like a rosy journey. Being entrepreneur can be hard. So what have been your struggles so far? Because I think your product speaks for yourself. It is solving problems. So what is the hard thing right now? What are the struggles you have faced?
So I will go back to our core problem, lack of communication skill. To meet the decision makers who can say, hi, I want to have this. And also meeting
So basically bringing the product to the market. So go to the market strategy has been your weakness so far, you see?
I would say so. I didn't have the connection in biotechnology. Petter he's very social, but he's not that aggressive approaching people.
No, I understand because, it's like somebody likes to build products and then you meet somebody who kind of goes and tells the story about the product because, there is a saying in India that, okay, I'll tell it in Hindi, that jungle mein mor nacha kisne jana. That means like if the peacock is actually dancing in the forest and nobody tells, who knows that the peacock is dancing?
Exactly.
So something like that. So I think it's very, very important to tell your story. And I think like to our audience, just go and search Wai Genetics and also kind of reach out to Kåre that if you are interested in the product or if you want to learn more about the product, I think Kåre is more than open to be reached
I'm very
out on
interested.
LinkedIn. Yes. So my appeal to all our listeners, just go ahead and give him a message, learn more about the products and things like that. So Kåre, like, if you go and kind of give your samples to, to a lab, what has been the feedback so far?
So the problem is that we have tried in the local environment to find people in the laboratory environment, which the first year didn't work. It's like people talk to us, but like after they talk to us, they like just forget us.
Yeah, this can happen, yes.
And later on, I started to be more aggressive in the way I was communicating because when you're spending a lot of time, you like, I cannot stop, just say, sorry, here I am, we have a product. I need to get more in people's face.
Absolutely.
So I have been better at communicating what we are doing, getting the value proposition up going, and also realizing don't waste time asking for permission. Find the people who need the product and give them a demonstration.
Absolutely.
So we have, like, during some of the events we went to, we met some potential users. So I sent Petter to Portugal and to Serbia to demonstrate the technology in the laboratory. And in both cases, it was very, very promising.
Very nice.
Now we are continuing next week, my co-founder goes to Serbia to rent the lab there because he's going to do the downstream analysis on the... We did some extractions, but we need to continue analyzing them. So he's going to continue the work. It's like when you're trying to do something in Norway, it's so expensive. By traveling to Serbia, we reduced the cost by 100 parts.
Wow, that's mind-blowing. Yeah. So if Norway, because Norway, I heard, has a very good ecosystem for supporting startups. So I'm sure like there would be some facilities from the government where you can use their labs and stuff like that. Tell us more about the Norwegian startup ecosystem.
So there's no doubt Norway is a very rich economy.
Absolutely.
And Norway hate that Sweden and Finland and Denmark are outperforming us in innovation. So we throw a lot of money on startups. But the problem is that to be the person they throw money on, you need to navigate the social maze.
So you mean the bureaucratic jungle or the social mess?
I would say more a social jungle. It's a little bit bureaucratic, but also a social jungle. So people who are controlling the grants, they cannot give to everyone. And they also want to give, so you need to impress them before they give you the grants. And unlucky for us, we will not able to impress them.
So, I mean, so when you reached out, so I actually missed that point. So, about the mentorship. So I'm sure you reached out to the experts. So like, did you have the due diligence of the product? Like, did they check the product themselves and it worked for them?
No. They didn't check it. They just so I would say in the beginning no, the mentors was just talking about, we don't believe you have a really good product and everything. They was just shit talking us in a way. Luckily, we actually found good mentors so close to Oslo.
Wow. Wow. And now because what are their suggestions basically? And how are you implementing that in your current journey?
What do you mean?
So the mentors that you found, say, in Oslo, the good ones.
So we found actually a female who exited a biotech startup herself. And she was actually able to make a successful biotech startup. But in 2008, the financial crisis happened and her investors needed to get cash fast. So even while she was doing really, really good when it comes to earning money, she needed to exit the company and sell it. And she immediately understood what we were proposing.
Wow.
Yes.
And what was, if I may listen, what was her advice to you?
She said, come to us tomorrow. So
and did you go? Did you go?
Yeah. So when I finished my work week, I just took a plane ticket to Oz, met them, and we start talking about the patent strategy. Because we don't have the money to file a patent. And a patent is worthless if you cannot defend it.
No, I totally understand that. So how are you kind of overcoming this financial challenge? Are you reaching out to investors, VCs, or what would be your next step?
Honestly, I'm really, at the moment, I don't reaching out to VCs and investors. I did it a lot last year, but you get really annoyed, like by explaining a really complex technology. I think like for the VC, this is the opportunity in their life. DNA extraction, we are improving the DNA extraction success on difficult sample from 9 to 92%. This is what we did on guava. That's a huge leap. And we are also increasing the quality immensely. This is also a market. It's a very niche market. When you want to invest, you rather trying to invest in a small niche market, because when you have market dominance in a market, you don't need to spend so much money on acquiring new customers because you're dominating the tribe in that market. So the DNA extraction market, the biggest actor in the DNA extraction market, has 75% of the market shares.
Is it QIAGEN or is it?
Yes, it's QIAGEN.
So, you have all big players. You have QIAGEN and you have also like other big players, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, LGC also has this market, and there's a French company which has also a big market share. So, and your reagent works with all these technologies, like you have the column method, then you have different methods, you have beads method. So, is your reagent compatible to all these technologies?
So far, what we have tested, of course, we need to continue testing, but we have done extensional testing. We tested with different kits. So it's not necessary that we are competing directly with them. You
are supplementing, basically.
Yes, we have a chemical add-on to what they already have. And this chemical add-on is stabilizing the chemimal stability of the DNA and also deflecting the chemical attacks on the DNA.
And this is, so just for our audience who wants to test your product, how can they reach out? Like, just tell us, because...
So first and foremost, we are a little bit hesitant about testing it everywhere. Like if the reagent get in the wrong hands, we don't have a company anymore.
No, I totally understand.
So we, at the moment, if we knew that the technology, that it was ours, it was protected, it would be no problem sending it through the mail.
Absolutely.
But we are a bit cautious right now.
And rightly so. Before a patent, I think one should be careful about.
So at the moment, we have traveled directly to the people and just tested in their lab themselves. This is something we have done in Portugal and Czech Republic, and we continue to doing it more. We might have get 2 larger customers. We have signed the deals and everything, so we just finalizing some of the steps. And if our reagent is performing with those 2 customers, we have landed 2 big key opinion leader.
Wow.
And do you remember Alexander the Great?
Of course, who doesn't?
Yeah, when he was fighting the Persian king. So imagine the Persian army was much huger than the Macedonian army of Alexander. But he targeted the king. He was able to get into where the king and controlling the king.
Yeah, and when that's how you win a battle.
You won the battle. And
Absolutely.
The same is what I want to do in Wai Genetics. If we find 2 key opinion leaders and we can present what we're doing, I think we can get into the battle and get more customers.
Absolutely. I think, this is, if the very reputed scientist in the field starts using your product, I think, other people are naturally inspired and use it. And especially in the scientific world, I can tell you that, once your product is having citations, like if somebody has used your product to publish their findings in a research journal, then that acts like a currency. That is the greatest marketing material that you can have. So I think you are on the right track.
So what I'm actually looking for is not investors, people who can give traction to what we're doing.
Absolutely.
It's like the podcast we are talking right now.
Yes.
This is social capital building, and I think that's more valuable than some of the monetary capital. Because
I think it's absolutely, I totally relate to you. And that's why, so because I have worked for several companies, especially in the product management area. And the way we launched any product was always kind of collaborating with, existing labs in academia or the key opinion leaders, sending them free samples, of course, after a patent or, if you are secure about your product. And if they use your product to, say, publish something, then it takes off, because scientists very much rely on publications. So if they see something has been peer reviewed and published, they are more comfortable using your product. So I think it's a I would request my audience to kind of just go through Wai Genetics website, reach out to Kåre for more information. At least he can give you more information on the product, if not the product itself.
Absolutely. And if we see that you are a key opinion leader, or not necessarily top or key opinion leader, but someone who has an opinion within DNA extraction, and we can go to your laboratory, hey, let us test it out. I think it would be really nice to plan a holiday. Let's call it a holiday.
Yeah. No, I can connect you to few special plant geneticists or the plant scientists who actually work on these extracts, and for them, I think your product is really valuable. Yeah. Coming back to the conversation, so you said you have a Petter and you are the co-founders. Are there more co-founders in your team?
Yes, we have 2 other. We have Andrew, who is in Serbia. He's a medicine student right now. We have been a bit careful to activate him too much. I think because he is in the middle of the study program, we don't want to jeopardize his study. It's better that he finish his study, get good grades, and when he have the right, when he's able to finish his study, we need a doctor on the team.
But it's not very important to have a doctor in the team, right? So,
it depends. So this, not a physician, let's call it a physician. Sometimes to perform some kind of tasks, you need people with the right credential.
Yes, that is for sure. So I thought because he's a med school guy, he's a doctor. Yeah. So, for you, like a normal scientist who works also like in the plant field would be kind of a great to team up. And the other co-founder?
So it's just that we need that skill on the team at some point, because we plan to not only doing plant medicine, we want to go into gut bacteria.
Got it. Microbiome and stuff.
Yeah, I think we haven't done so much testing on gut yet, but hypothetically, the reagent we are having it's not only stabilizing the DNA, it's stabilizing the tissue, the cells and everything. And if you can keep the tissue representative when you're performing analysis, you access more information.
No, and that's a huge field because, right now the tissues are fixed by formalin,
Then you kill it.
Formaldehyde, and you kind of really basically damage it to an extent that you cannot perform, easily any study, So I think
we've done some testing to see how long we can keep tissue alive. And the longest we are able to do it, it's for 6 months.
Wow.
So we put some plant tissue into the reagent, and after 6 months, we started to see it start damaging. But during the 6 months, it was the tissue was still intact. And if it
and is it like you keep it in room temperature, or you keep it like in?
Let me show me. Just wait a minute.
Sure.
So it's better when you keep it in a fridge, then it lasts longer. So here is some sample we did. This is a guava leaf. This is actually many years ago. So the cells is probably damaged. But if this was like a more fresh sample, the cells would probably be more alive.
And you can take out the DNA intact.
Yes, but it's not necessary that you only want to look at the DNA. Imagine if you have a bacterial sample. Sometimes you just want to sort the bacteria. And if you keep the cell intact, you can, when you have sorted the cell through a flow cytometry and so on, you can then have a concentration of only the bacteria you want, and you can start regrowing it.
Absolutely. No, this is fantastic. All right. So we have talked about co-founders. So you have like one is in Serbia and the other you didn't mention, let's.
We have another one in Oslo. An Italian guy in Oslo.
So you are all co-founders basically right now.
Yeah. So. Of course, the percentage owner, like the
equity, let's say.
Yeah, we have different ownership of the company. So me and Petter is having the majority of the company. But we also need the other two co-founders to help us when it becomes too much.
No, I totally get that. But tell me one thing, because I've seen also that, if you have a company and you have 4 co-founders, co-founders can be great, but at times, because there's disagreement, there are difference of opinion. How do you navigate this journey? In a startup which is at a, in a growing phase, how do you kind of manage your conflicts?
How to manage? So for me, it's more that I actually submitted to my co-founders' plan. Like if you have too many,
who makes the decision? Let's put it like that, because if you have,
I would say Petter makes the end decision, but I also, but I influence him by my reasoning.
Natural, of course, absolutely. This is totally fine. But then you have one decision maker, and of course you all can give him advice, and then Petter is, let's say, the CEO.
Yes. So what I think if you have 4 people who are too opinionated, it's really, really hard to run a startup. So I think it's more efficient that I'm actually, submitting to him as the prime decision maker into the company. I'm presenting him with potential customer, with potential leads, with potential ideas and so on, but he do the final decision on it.
No, that's the way to go. I would say that, you let one person make all the decisions, but of course, as co-founders, you need to back him up, and then you need to present him the right, with the right advice, let's say, because I think it's, after all, the baby of all, the company is like your combined baby, right? So you need to take care of that. Yes. Awesome. I would like to touch base again with the startup ecosystem in Norway, because you said that it's a rich country. And I can see that there's like a lot of support for the startups. But then, with so high taxes, for example, in Norway, how do you what is your suggestion basically? Because you are in middle of all this.
If you're a founder, wait until you see what's going to happen in this election this autumn. If the people who run Norway going to continue having 4 more years, don't start a startup. Just don't.
And why is that? Give us the reasons also. Yeah.
So you're taxed into oblivion. I think like if at the moment we have gotten some grants from the Norwegian government, but we have spent endless of money into our startup. We were able to land some investors last year too, actually. But at the moment, we need to pay a fortune tax on the valuation of the company. And I need to take a loan to pay this fortune tax.
And this is on unrealized. So this valuation is hypothetical, right? Because it's just on hypothetically papers.
Because we were so stupid to get investor last year. I need to pay a fortune tax because when you onboard investor to your startup get the valuation. And you are personally taxed on the valuation of the startup. So
that's crazy because I have never heard of such a tax system because...
look at the Norwegian currency for the last 4 years. And you're going to see the currencies had dropped by 20-30%. And this is because this political shenanigans going on. There have been so many people who needed to move to Switzerland to be able to save their company. And what they did, instead of trying, hey, or maybe our fortune tax is too high. No. They put on an exit tax. If you move from Norway to another country, you need to pay 40% of everything you own to the government.
But this is unheard of. I'm like, my mind is blowing that, if, for example, your startup, maybe it's not a profit-making entity yet, and you have investors on a hypothetical value, how can you pay taxes on an unrealized value? And how do they do the evaluation?
Personal loan. And if I lose my company tomorrow, I still need to pay the taxes. So you get a tax impossible to escape. And also, you cannot move outside of the country. It's like an economic Berlin Wall Norway is trying to build right now.
This is really hard. I mean, even to listen, I'm like, it's like, because on other hand, we see there are so many economies that are actually giving a lot of tax benefits, tax incentives to kind of, to attract startup. And Norway, which is such an evolved society, evolved country.
If you're rich, you can afford to be stupid.
Oh my God! Hashtag first world problems.
Yeah, exactly.
This is this Kåre is only during the recent government, or was it like this before?
It was much better before. So in Norway, we have the. I'm not sure if it's correct to call it conservative, but we can call it economic conservative, and we also have the socialist government. And the current socialist government it's very funny when they have increased the taxes, the tax revenue for the government went down.
This is ironical. And I don't understand. So, if you are like not incentivizing entrepreneurs, then who the hell will want to, maybe start a company, and how will the economy be sustainable for long? Because of course I understand Norway has a lot of natural resources and everything, it's a rich country, but then you will end up basically demotivating the capable people out of your country, isn't it?
I say, if the current political party wins, don't start a startup in Norway. Just don't. Move outside of Norway first and then start. And I don't think so. So what they want a planned economic startup ecosystem where the government controls everyone who's going to get the grants or not. So they want to increase the funding of the planned economic part of the startup ecosystem, but destroying every private initiative. So it's like the court of Versailles. Every decision is going to be within the court of Versailles.
This is so. I mean, I could not imagine that's happening in Norway because I mean that's That's hilarious. I mean, how is it different than
Yeah,
a socialist government, right? So it's
so we have been on mixed economy, but like
Mhm.
when it comes to taxes, there's so like uh, so my advice to the government: if you're going to increase taxes, do it gradually,
Mhm.
because if you do it too fast, you don't know where to stop. Have you heard about the Laffer curve?
No, I haven't, but tell me,
So the
yes.
Laffer curve is actually, he was the economic advisor of Reagan,
Mhm.
and he had a theory that when the government is trying to increase the revenue with taxes, when you reach a certain point, your revenue actually is going down. So if you have 100% taxes, you have 0% tax income because nobody has anything to produce.
Wow,
So
so they must learn about this curve. Otherwise, I mean, the startup founders will be demotivated. They will basically move their efforts to different locations, and this would be, I think, not very healthy for the
no.
Norwegian ecosystem. So no, I
And
mean,
that's very good because I'm not planning to ask for more grants. I can criticize the system because most people are like, please give me some grants and I will not criticize you.
yeah, this is so funny because on one hand you said they have grants, but then
Mhm.
if giving them tax benefits is also in a way a grant, right?
Yes.
And I think then you are also kind of supporting private initiatives, so to say.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But I am not an economist, so yeah, I will leave that up to the experts. But good insights here, so I understand that. All right, so let's move into another topic, and this is more about, say, your learnings from the startup so far. So you have started this company, say, in 2020, right?
Yeah.
So it's 5 years of startup learning. So what has been your greatest learning so far?
Uh, I think my greatest learning is to be more critical about advice.
Hmm.
You need to listen, but when you listen, you don't always need to apply what people are saying.
Hmm.
And also, this is a double-edged sword
Hmm.
because sometimes you need to challenge the authority.
Hmm.
Because I think if you're submitting to everyone who
Hmm.
claims they are an advisor, you're going nowhere. So
Yeah. As I said, I said you the story about another co-founder who also did. So I think, the co-founder needs to be, or any founder needs to be mentally very strong so that,
yes, you it's a mental, it's not only a journey with your product, it is also a mental journey as a co-founder. uh, I'm not sure if all mental, like everything what I developed is like mental progress. There is like there is part of you that you lose on the way in the journey.
no, I understand. And but when you say this, what do you mean? Like, what do you lose? Because you also gain a lot of experience and you gain a
Yeah.
lot of,
So
expertise.
I, to be honest, I really like when you started. I think like the naive playfulness when you started. I think that's actually something. It's stupid, but it's something beautiful. Like creativity comes a lot of time from this naivety with this
Mhm.
open world. But I think it's time to be creative and so on. But other times you need to develop more like foundation to reality. But yeah, I think it's really very beautiful if you can at least shelter some of the people in society to keep this youthful spirit, like the children and everything.
Mhm.
So you lose like this naivety you had when you start. It's
Mhm.
still there, but it's like more.
Because you mature, right? Like when you kind of
Yeah.
have been, kind of in a rigorous journey, of
Mhm.
course, you learn and then you kind of, you lose that naivety. And that the same thing is with life, so as we
Yes.
grow. But I totally agree that that kind of naivety is beautiful, and I think it's
Mhm.
also rewarding, because
Yeah.
you are not kind of bound by the limitations that the world has put on you, because you are naive, you are right,
Mm.
kind of, you're open to any idea, and then you kind of you're ready to pivot basically.
I think this naivety is a necessary part of the startup journey. If you
Absolutely.
knew the risk that you was going to encounter, you would not start. If I knew
Abs-
if I knew the risk I would encounter during these 5 years, I would just continue investing in housing.
No, and Kari, you said, I think you said a very important point, that if you knew, for example, that getting investments would increase your taxes, you wouldn't do that. So, maybe getting the right tax advice is also a very important part of the startup journey, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say a really important part of succeeding as a founder is the ignorance, because without the ignorance, you wouldn't start.
Yeah, because you just calculate so many scenarios in your brain,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
kind of, it's called analysis paralysis, right? Like
Yeah,
paralysis
yeah,
due to
yeah,
analysis. Yeah.
exactly. But also but like you also get the huge reward about the people you met along the way, like other startup founders and so on. And
Yeah. So, and this was my next question, Kare. So, you met Peter, of course, in the board game. And
mhm.
how did you found another co-founders? How did you met other
So
co-founders?
Peter was very close friend with a guy in Serbia, and
Hmm.
very funny. The other guy from Italy was actually my
Hmm.
neighbor, and I went there going drinking coffee like 2 times a week.
Hmm.
And I was talking about my problem with my startup, and he's like, "Do you know I worked as a biotechnician for 10 years?"
Ah. So he has the right background to be,
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, yeah. He's very good with the process, the chemical
Hmm.
process. So he's
Hmm.
very like, he's not that good at analyzing, but he's very good at the chemical process and everything. But I think he also
Fantastic.
can be good at analyzing if we start training him more.
Fantastic. So, I mean, this is again more towards learning, learning basically from you. So, for example, when you have four co-founders, you said, okay, Peter makes all the decision. But then, because your startup is not generating so much revenue as of now,
Mhm.
how do all the co-founders sustain?
So I'm sustaining by I still have my property. I don't earn so much from it now.
Mhm.
When you get to a certain age, it's difficult to rent out your entire place.
Yes.
So I have still some rent income, but I also have another job as an aqua
Mhm.
technician.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I work 1 week as aqua technician, and then I go back to have 1 week off. So I
Mhm.
have a
Mhm.
full-time job as an aqua technician. My
Got it.
co-founder moved back to Finnmark because in Finnmark they have no taxes. Now, they have taxes, but it's much lower than where I live right
So,
now.
is it Finnmark? If I
Yes, it's further
and
north
what's
than Tromsø.
okay?
It's on the
So it's
border to Russia.
all right, but this is the same country, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
But then
So
in the same
difference,
country, you have different taxes.
yes.
All right. I mean, this is also very new to me.
So they have
And
some tax incentives to make people live in the remote areas.
got it. Got it. And how about your other? So one is in Serbia, one is in Finnmark, one is in Tromsø, and I think Peter is also in Tromsø.
Petter is in Finnmark.
In Finnmark, oh, sorry.
He's the only one who worked full time in the company.
Got it. Got it.
So he
So, and
moved back to his parents' place to reduce living
costs,
expenses.
costs. So your labs currently, so the lab work will be done in Serbia.
At the moment, yes, but it seems like the two customers we are getting,
Hmm.
we are able to rent their lab as we do the
Hmm.
missions. And we
Fantastic.
also
Yeah.
plan to order a container lab and put it into my yard.
Fantastic. No, no, this is great. This is great. So, I mean, what would be your advice to other young entrepreneurs who are kind of, who are naive who are, say, just looking back 5 years, who are very young, who have found a product and they want to start up, what would be your advice to them?
Uh, I so it
Because
depends
you
where you
said,
plan to
why
start.
am I?
I would say don't waste time. If the product is not good enough, don't waste time. So
just
when
start.
No. I would advise make sure that the hill you choose to fight on is worth fighting for.
Got it. So you have to
Yeah.
find the product market fit before you kind of,
Not necessarily finding a product market fit, but knowing that you are going into a field where you have some technological advantage. Because if you're going into a field that everyone can copy what you're doing, you're wasting time.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
Yeah,
I totally get
ensure that you have some that if you are going to do an app, make sure that you have on your team someone who is good at programming. And like have the skills in-house, like having a comparative advantage. It's not worth going into startup if you're trying to start a startup idea where you have no comparative advantage.
No, absolutely. Makes total sense. And what I see also, I think a very good strategy that I think you guys did, because, you have four co-founders with different backgrounds. And, so for example, Peter is a total lab guy. You are more a business guy. Then you have a medical doctor. And then you have somebody who has really worked in the lab as a biotechnician. So that's, I think it's a good team, right? Because you have diverse kind of skill sets in the team. So how do you kind of want to go the next 5 years? What is the vision for Wai Genetics in the next 5 years?
So I really hope that the two leads we are having now, the two contract with the bigger labs will go fine, that we are able to demonstrate that
value
what we are having is going to change how people do DNA extraction. And my goal is from then that we can be a lean startup focusing on delivering the chemicals. Like if you want to do the analysis, I'm very happy. It's okay if you earn more money than me. I want to focus on delivering the chemistry. So this is the ideal situation where we can be a lean company, just being good at really one thing. I suspect that sometimes we might actually do the DNA extraction service ourselves, because we have figured out a lot of laboratory actually don't like to do that. And
so you want to diversify basically also into a service company that you do?
Preferable not, but it might be that the demand of the customer want the DNA extraction done. This is a higher, it's more money to be earned. But then you need to start hiring a lot of people. And I think like when you start hiring a lot of people, your organization get more complex.
Yes. But you want to keep it lean, or you want to keep it like you want to grow it?
Preferable. I would like to keep it lean with some focusing on one like the chemistry part. But I'm not sure we will be able to do that. That we need to go to the part where we actually need to produce the lab service, where we do biological DNA extraction as a service.
But this is such a common thing to do in the lab, and because these days the technology is so accessible that any person can extract the DNA, and with your reagent, if you claim that you kind of maintain the integrity of the DNA in plant samples, for example, like guava or something like that, then I think it is a really valuable product, because people don't want to kind of complicate their extraction method. They just want to add the reagent themselves, and maybe if it's easy to use product, they are happy to do that.
Oh, so that would be the best.
That would be your okay.
Yeah, that would be ideal, because it's not about earning as much money as possible, but I think if you can make a company that's lean, easy, you save yourself from a lot of headache. It's
and also impact, because you are kind of it's also impactful because you're actually enabling scientists to do good work. So if you no, this is fantastic. And so yeah, now I think more relaxed part, because when you do these startups, it's a lot of grilling and a lot of stress. So how do
Mhm.
you kind of take care of yourself? What are your hobbies?
I have multiple hobbies. One is exercising, like
Mhm.
swimming, running, weightlifting. I
Hiking,
did it
maybe?
more before. No, I've been so much that I didn't do it so well. But actually, swimming is a really great way to find investors.
Really? Tell us more.
Yes. Most of the investors we get into the company I met in the sauna.
Wow. Wow. So,
So,
maybe one should join a good swimming club, to
yeah,
get the right investors.
absolutely. I would say a lot of time when you go to the real like startup invest, like the investor events,
Mhm.
uh, it's so much competition for the attention for those who have money. You don't have time to explain a complex idea. It's like you have 2 minutes, like give me 2 minutes and tell me why I should invest into your startup. It's not the right condition. Uh, 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 so, but when you are in the sauna, you're just telling about what you're doing,
And
and
in a
then you
more
raise
relaxed
kind
setup, in a more
of a
relaxed.
relaxed setup, and
Mhm.
then they'd like say, "I want to invest in your startup." And
Wow.
it's also when you get one investor, you also get more. Like people decide in pack.
No, absolutely. And
So
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
so
So how did
being
you meet your investors? Basically, this was my next
just
question, but
being
yes.
naked in the sauna, sweating, five naked dudes in the
Wow.
sauna talking about
Wow.
what I'm doing.
Fantastic. I mean, this is very unique. I mean, you are the first guy who said me that, you got your investors naked, big,
It's only in a sauna you can hear the naked truth.
Absolutely. Wow. Fantastic. Fantastic. And what apart from swimming and all, like, do you also like,
Computer games.
Mhm.
Board games, computer games, chess, and so on. I actually love strategy game. It's
Mhm.
not necessarily only in a healthy way. It can be in an obsessive way.
Mhm.
But I really love to play strategy game. I like to play Age of Empires, Civilization. I played a bit League of Legends and Dota. Not trying to play too much. I like to play games where I can listen to audiobook at the same time. So then more like
Fantastic.
turn-based strategy game is a very relaxed way. It's more about listening to a book than playing the game.
Fantastic, fantastic. No, this is amazing. So, Kare, I think, we have spoken at a stretch for so long, and it has been a pleasure speaking to you. So, thank you so much for the time you took, and I wish you all the best for your startup journey ahead. And I'm sure Y Genetics will be a successful startup. So, with that, I
Thank
think,
you.
yes. So, with that, we'll end the podcast, and maybe we have another conversation in few years again. So,
And if you want to come to Tromsø, I'm going to make sure that you have a place to stay.
wow. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Kare. Thank you for your
And
kindness.
also inviting you to speak with the biotech environment in Tromsø.
That's fantastic. So kind of you. And I'll kind of try to kind of prioritize this on my list. Although
Yeah.
the Northern Lights have been on my head, so because I want to, it's on my bucket list, so
Oh, it
definitely.
can be
So
very beautiful.
absolutely. So perhaps it's the universe ways of connecting two people, at different
Yeah.
geographies. So, no, I'm glad that I had this conversation with you, and we remain in touch. Thank you so much. And to the audience, please subscribe to our podcast and reach out to Kare to learn more about Wai Genetics and how his reagents basically revolutionizing the world of DNA extraction. Thank you so much, Kare.
Thank you, Manish. It
Thank
means a
you.
lot being able to talk about the journey we are doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.